Welcome to the Girl Like a Mother podcast. Today is so exciting. I have a guest who is a star in her own right, and I'm really excited to talk with her. I have a whole a huge bio that I want to read to you, but I feel like I'm going to keep it short because she's just got so much to offer. Adora is an author. She's an expert and leader in the fields of spirituality, essential oils, and vibrational medicine. And she intertwines the ancient healing practices of the natural world with the psycho-spiritual principles to teach people, women, everybody how to access their full potential. And her work really focuses on transforming trauma at the personal, ancestral, and planetary levels of consciousness. She has a book that is coming out spring 2024, which is called The Love Frequency, a modern alchemist guide to thriving in sacred purpose, which I can't wait for. That sounds incredible. And Adora's been mentioned in and contributed to all sorts of prominent news outlets, including Women's Health magazine, Martha Stewart, CNN, Healthline. The list really goes on. Plus, you've got your own institute. So you're just all things. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Jill. It's a delight to be here with you.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you. I've been, as I told you before we hit record, diving into your website and learning. And I know that today we're going to dive into talking about the 5 types of modern alchemy. So, what I would love to do, just for anyone who perhaps isn't familiar, is can we start with what is alchemy?
Yes,
Back to
absolutely.
basics.
Absolutely. Well, basics give us a wonderful foundation. And I think once your listeners really start to understand that foundational aspect and the 5 pillars of modern alchemy, it's going to be really exciting because it's all about practicality, accessibility, and yet profound levels of transformation.
I love it.
So, for many of you that have heard the term alchemy from a traditional perspective, in terms of transmuting base metals into gold, right? That's a kind of common general understanding. But at the Soul Institute, we're really talking about spiritual alchemy. We are talking about the hero and heroine's journey of transformation, of taking the places of challenge, of pain, of adversity that we all have, and transmuting them into places of empowerment, strength, confidence, wisdom, knowledge, creativity, and intuition. And so, from this perspective, when we consider the idea of modern alchemy, one of the things that I like to say at the Institute is that it's really ancient alchemical wisdom and healing traditions, but with a modern day twist. And so, modern alchemy unites science and spirituality because they're not two competing philosophies, they are different sides of the same coin. And, it's really beautiful because when I first started in this field, like now, 30 years ago, um, many of these concepts, working with essential oils for spiritual awakening, emotional resilience, anything other than traditional allopathic, was not as tangible here in the States. And of course, things like Akashic records or even sound healing really brought out a lot of confusion, even meditation, right? 30 years ago, yes, it was known, but it didn't have the scientific data and research that it does now. So for me, it's like a wave that I've been riding for the past many decades that now I feel like I'm really surfing that sweet spot of time and space, right? That greater alignment, because now when we start to talk about scientific aspects of sound healing or essential oils or ancient or historical use of crystals, there is much more tangible data that can be shared. So we really move out of the realm of anecdotal thinking to something that we can really sink our teeth into or open our heart to, right? Because for those of us that are pioneers in this field, we've known this for a very long time. So to be able now to have the accessibility of understanding that, that there are so many ways that we can have a tangible modality, a tangible product like an essential oil at our fingertips that is really going to provide relief, right? From an emotional perspective to help us balance stress. That relying on some facets of plant medicine are going to help us to become more physically vibrant, right? The working with meditation is going to help us increase our immunity, and high immunity is so important now more than ever. But more than that, help us to have a positive outlook, to reduce our cortisol levels, right, in terms of our stress response. So it's really such a wonderful time to be talking about the concept, the philosophy, and the practice of modern alchemy because in for our evolving modern times, modern alchemy is really about those practices that are simple, accessible, right, tangible, consumable, and yet really drive the needle of transformation for us because we are evolving, right, rapidly. Our awakening, our consciousness, we see it through our children that are coming in with such great wisdom,
Hmm.
right, and capacity that I don't know about you, but that I don't remember having when I
No.
was young like that, right? And so it's really such a wonderful time to share these tools that can really provide so much illumination, grace,
Hmm.
freedom, emotional freedom. And I think that we are being called back to the earth, right, for these natural remedies. We are being called back to ourselves and to each other because we stand at this pinnacle of mood based discontent, where we see the challenges with mental health from an individual perspective, right, that have been passed through our ancestral lineage, that are of a global epidemic, and even more difficult to look at and accept is how our children are really struggling now more than ever with things like addiction, mental health challenges. And, when we start to have a deeper conversation about that, with things like a suicide, right? So we are really at this profound moment where taking responsibility for our own well being is paramount because that is the way that we can not only help ourselves, but help each other.
Hmm.
So that's a snippet.
That's so beautiful. There's so many things that come up for me as you're going through that. The most important one I want to make sure people hear and heard you say is that these are practical tools that you can
Yes.
use, right? And it's how you can heal yourself, right? How you
Yeah.
can use the knowledge that is now catching up. It's like old knowledge, but now it's back almost, and the world is
Yeah.
ready for it. And so I feel like we're all exposed a lot more now than 30 years ago to these ideas and terms. And like I've got crystals, sage, essential oils right here beside me on my desk. That's just part of my workspace. And that's normal now, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so educating, especially moms who don't have time to go and learn all of this off the deep end, right? They don't have time for trial and error. They don't have time to dive into the books. To have someone like you guide them through and give them simple tools that they can use
Mhm.
to manage, their emotions, their stress, start to heal the lineage. That's big, right?
Huge.
Um,
Huge.
it's incredible. And I mean, one thing I'm super interested in is the crystal alchemy. I don't know
Mm,
much about crystals, but I'm drawn to them and
mm,
I I just feel that there's something special that everyone can resonate with a crystal, right? It's not like
yes.
not too far woo for most people.
Exactly, exactly. And I think even the idea of what was considered woo or even new agey 5 years ago, even maybe 2 years ago, is becoming much more understood and mainstream. And I love the idea of starting with crystals. And of course, I am just, I think it's fantastic that at your workspace you have your crystals and your oils and your sage. Same right here. I can't really count off the top of my head how many bottles of oils that I have here for teaching and, of course, for my own holistic well-being. And this is the point that I really want to stress, that for all of us that want to see better in the world, want to feel better within our relationship to the world around us, it starts with each and every individual, right? And there was a beautiful quote by Gandhi that actually gets pretty botched up often these days when people are speaking about it, but it really comes down to um, becoming the change that you wish to see. And that's really important, not only because everything in our reality, right, is energy, right? And this will tie into the crystal question, but I just want to make this kind of foundational piece really clear, that we now know that all matter is energy, right? Proved by quantum physics. So all matter is energy that is vibrating at different oscillations of frequency. So when we think about becoming the change that we wish to see, well, for all of us, there is something more that we want to experience, right? Whether it's health, whether it's harmony in our relationships, or maybe a relationship that is really aligned, a new relationship, like to call in the one, or to have that really close connection with our children, our families, great passion in our work, and abundance and prosperity. Well, we have to become a frequency match, an energetic match for that, for it to come into embodiment in our world, right? In our reality, in this material world. And so this is one of the ways that crystals are really so wonderful. And I'm just looking, I don't happen to have a piece of quartz that's accessible here, but I want to start with that one because it is a wonderful mineral, a wonderful crystal. It's very affordable and incredibly accessible. And so, what people don't typically know is that the quartz crystal can be found in so many countless everyday expressions of your life. Everything from your watches, right? The microchips, the computer chips, in software, and also really brilliantly, beginning in World War II, the quartz crystal was used in military telecommunications equipment for its remarkable ability to hone in on a precise frequency. So when we think about that, like, wow, that puts a lot of credence into the crystal's ability to not just receive or transmit, but to have that clarity of frequency of communication, right? Because we know military, that is a precision is key to life. And I think that this is a really interesting tidbit for those that might say, oh, crystals are so woo, right?
Right.
The more research that you do, the more that you find, well, each and every crystal has a specific vibrational pattern. And like you, Jill, you're drawn to them, right? You're drawn to maybe certain ones at certain times or certain colors,
Hmm.
right? And so crystals and quartz in particular is a wonderful stone to incorporate into your meditation practice to help accelerate your
Mm.
frequency, to help raise your vibration and accelerate those aspects of awakening to the great gifts that are your birthright.
Okay.
And of course, children love them. And
Yes.
so they have no idea like what's woo or I shouldn't like this because it's not, right? They're just like, "Oh, I want this and it makes me feel good."
Mine are
And
obsessed.
obsessed, obsessed.
Yeah. They've got them under their mattresses. They've got a big rose quartz hunk on their side table. Like it's a whole
Yeah,
thing. It's a whole
it's the
thing.
whole
They just
thing.
love it.
I know. My daughter, I have 2 daughters. Lily, 14 and Violet, who's 9. And Lily, came down to talk to me the other day. It was one day last week, and she said, "Oh, mommy, I held my crystal all night long."
Mm.
And when I woke up, it just made me feel like really together. You know, she couldn't quite put her words to what she was saying, but it just made her feel good and like cohesive is how I would term it.
I love
And
that.
I love that.
Yeah. The kids are, like you said, so open to the ideas and the concepts, and they haven't had the exposure of people telling them not to think about that way, or that's wrong or bad, or whatever society can put on us. And I love that it's so accessible. Your tools are so accessible that we can use them every day and model for our kids how to
Yeah,
use them and teach them in a way that is going to set them up from the time that they're young, right? So that they'll have these tools moving forward in their life that we didn't have till we were in our 30s and 40s.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's so important because um, coming back to that idea of relief, right? To be able to have that sigh where we allow our breath to deepen, right? Because we're not in that state of fight or flight because we know how toxic stress can be, how detrimental for the body. And to be able to adopt these practices from a young age, you know, perhaps they won't have to go through the decades of therapy, right? That have been
Yeah.
such a part of my personal journey as a healer and teacher and author. You know, I was just chatting with someone on my team who's putting on a post on our social tonight, which is on Adora Winquist for Daily Ohm, which is a very popular mainstream, wonderful resource that I did a few interviews on crystals for healing. And the one that she'll be putting up this evening is on jade,
Oh,
which is an incredible stone and so much more than just a stone for good luck or prosperity. So for all of your listeners, you'll find a lot of wonderful insight and ways that you can incorporate crystals into your simple daily practices and rituals from our blog, from our social media, and of course, my first book, which is Detox, Nourish, Activate, has a lot of wonderful applications for the crystals, for the oils, for meditation, and for these vibrational healing methods, including one that I'd love to share.
yes, please.
So, you know, the vagus nerve is really such a hot topic
Mhm.
these days. And I think, you know, we'll continue to see this as our awareness increases, as our consciousness rises, right? All of these other deeper connections to mind and body in ways that we can modulate them to create greater harmony and holistic well-being within ourselves. Now, the vagus nerve, this would be under a practical alchemy aspect, right? And so the vagus nerve in medieval times was considered the soul that can communicate and connect mind and body. And if you think about how it's the longest cranial nerve in the body, right? That goes from the brain particularly the brainstem, all the way around. So throat all the way down. All of these, really key primary organs and glands, right? Thymus and heart and lungs, and down to all of the digestive organs, all the way down to the large intestine, right? So if you think about that, it's really connecting, right, our higher sense, the higher realms, divine consciousness, to the earth. And so when we can work with simple, easy hacks, right, practical alchemy to help tone it, so we can move ourselves out of fight or flight, so we can activate our parasympathetic nervous system for rest and digest much more quickly, because we know that not only helps our physical health, right, our emotional well-being, our mental clarity, our spiritual connection, and then of course as mothers, right, well, we are the superheroes of our families, so it helps us to be able to fill our cup first so that we can be of greatest support and service to our loved ones, right? So we can model that change that we all want to see in this world. So a really simple practice, and of course I'm going to intertwine the essential oil with this one. Sound good?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
So in my last book, I created a modality called EOBT, essential oil based tapping technique. Again, because we need these very simple hacks. So you'll take your essential oil, and of course, in this case, a soothing one, a geranium, which is wonderful for so many aspects of us as mothers, right? Hormonal balance, nervous system balance. It could be a chamomile, very soothing, ylang ylang. Of course, lavender, right? The universal peacekeeper. And what you would do is take one drop, it's all you need, and just put it on your fingers here, whatever your dominant hand is, and take a deep breath in. Now, this part is key because of the proximity to the nose and the brain, and specifically the limbic system and the amygdala that regulates so much of our physiology, mood, memory, and emotion in particular. We can literally transform our feeling and stress response in the moment.
Mm.
We can immediately, through inhalation, 30 to 45 seconds, help to bring a sense of restoration through the nervous system. But it's actually so much more than that, because the more that you use the oils in this way, right, through the olfactory system, well, you're able then to shift the trajectory of your emotional response. So those places that have been triggers, right, where you get activated, stressed, anxious, down, overwhelmed, frustrated, scattered, well, now you have a really quick way to modulate that and to then reshape your neural pathways for a healthier emotional response in the future. So in this practice, so let's just imagine maybe you got an email or a phone call, or something happened with one of the kids at school, or a report card came home, something that really drove you from 0 to 60 in like 2.1 seconds, right? And suddenly you feel like you're, shaking either inwardly or outwardly. So this, when you've inhaled your essential oil, well, then we're going to go to heart 7, which is a point. It kind of feels, it's on the side here, and I can share an image if you want to put it in the show notes. But it's right on this side here of the pinky, and you can kind of feel, it feels like a spongy little trampoline,
Mhm.
right? And so after you inhale, well, then you're going to use the finger that has the oil on it and tap that as you envision yourself coming back very quickly to a state of balance and tranquility.
That's insane. I absolutely, and this is the second time that I'm like writing it down already, just in this short conversation, because taking tools that I already use, like tapping and essential oils, and putting them together, as well as having crystals in my meditation practice, like this is ramping things up in a way where I feel like I'm getting a twofer,
Yes.
this is because I I'm new to this. I'm new to all of this. Well, maybe more into it than most, but still new. And I am I'm like, okay, so I've got the crystals, I've got the oils. Like, that's
Mhm.
cool. Is that enough? Like, but to be able to have these, I'm so eager to grab your first book and have this practical guide to give some examples of how we can integrate, right? How we can use them in real life moments, because literally everyone has that moment where the school calls or your kid falls off the play structure or you heard mom one too many times, right? We all know
Yes.
that like feeling. So
It's so
good.
true. And sometimes all of those happen in one day,
Oh, yes, they
right?
do.
It's so real. It's so real. And here's the thing, we long to be more real, to be more authentic,
Mhm,
to be more present
mhm,
for ourselves, our kids, everyone
mhm,
around us, right? And these tools, simple, practical, accessible, and yet profound, are ways to do that. So, with your crystals and meditation, absolutely, it will create synergy. And this is one of the facets of our foundational understanding of modern alchemy that connects into herbalism,
mm,
right? When we think about blending an essential oil formula or an herbal tea, well, the concept of synergy is where the ingredients, right, the sum of the parts is more effective than the single isolate. So, in this way, you are amping up your practice, you are accelerating it,
mhm.
right? And in ways that you may not notice in the moment, but then you go, oh, well, I've been doing this for about a week and it's amazing. Like, I'm not reacting the way that I normally would when this happened.
Mhm.
And I feel this sense of openness. And from that, like, I just like I'm getting this inspiration, or I'm feeling a sense of intuition that I haven't had in a long time, or perhaps ever.
And that's a
And
really
these
nice.
are all part of our gifts.
Do you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you have created these blends and you sell them, is that right? Like, we can
Yes.
get these, your knowledge in a bottle.
Yes. And I was thinking about that before we talked, right? Like, what are some of the best tools for us as mothers? And I was thinking about there's a collection on my website under aromatherapy. It's called Sacred 8.
Ooh.
And it's the Sacred 8 chakra collection. Now, I've been blending formulas for a long time. And this new collection is really um, it's called High Vibe Aromatics, which is my new aromatherapy brand. This is probably the fifth brand that I've built. The last one I built an essential oil business, which was really the first national brand to bring energy healing, energy clearing sprays, chakra sprays, award winning, to the mainstream. And I built that and then was able to sell that, to go on and go back to my healing practice and teach and write. And so this new brand, High Vibe Aromatics, are these new really high frequency formulas. And the Sacred 8, there are these 8 beautiful colored bottles. So you can pick one either based on the chakra, or you can pick one based on the color that jumps out at you, or you can pick one based on the name, right? Like the sacral chakra is emotional freedom,
Mm,
right? Who doesn't want that and
totally.
more of that? And so these are small, you can take them on the airplane, you roll them on, they're pret-a-porter, right? Ready to wear, already diluted. You roll them on and breathe them in. And this is how you are able to shift your energy, your mood, your feeling, and your consciousness so quickly. And I think your moms out there are really going to enjoy that. So that's one of the reasons that your all of your listeners will have a code for a promotion, to be able to pick out which one really fits with them, either based on the oil or the color or the concept.
That is so generous. Thank you so much. And of course, that's going to go in the show notes, but it's going to be code GLAM,
Yeah.
GLAM, which is grow like a mother, short
Mhm.
form, for 20% off at
Yeah.
Adora's website. So, I mean, I know I'll be taking advantage of that for sure. Another place on the website that I want to make sure people check out is your blog. I'm
Mm.
going to do a deep dive a little bit later tonight, and specifically, and maybe you can touch on it real quick, is the one about the salts and how salts can be really helpful for us.
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. So sea salt, it is there was a time that it was traded for its weight in gold.
Mm.
And we think of salt, it has many spiritual significance, salt of the earth, right? Which means we are connected to our earth mother, but our own authenticity and truth. We think of salt adding spice and flavor to life, makes wonderful gifts. Like, talk about a hostess gift.
Yeah.
I do a yearly pilgrimage, Mary Magdalene pilgrimage to southern France. And one of the places that we go to is in the Camargue on the Mediterranean Sea, that is famous for their salts. And so it is one every year that I would just pack my suitcase full of this incredible salt and give it as gifts because it is something that everyone loves, whether you're using it in cooking, whether you're using it in practices, sacred practices, modern alchemy, simple practices like purifying the energy in your home, right? And so on the blog, there's a great little practice that you can do very accessibly, even if you go to your local grocer to get sea salt, um, to be able to cleanse and bless your space. It's known for its ability to cleanse and consecrate. And of course, I'm a huge proponent for hydrotherapy, right? Because us moms, the superheroes, we need to recharge, to nourish ourselves. I think that I have never met a mother that is not walking around with some degree of adrenal fatigue. And that is a real thing. And there are so many physical and emotional ramifications of that, especially as we age, right? Now in this, post-menopausal time in my life, and where the adrenal system is even more challenged as our reproductive, our we're not producing from our ovaries some of the hormones that we used to. So chronic and acute stress has an even greater impact for those of us in certain times of life. And so it's so key to address before it starts to affect other systems of the body, like the thyroid.
Right.
So in the DNA book, there's a enormous section on the adrenals, how to detox, how to nourish, how to activate them, with many recipes that you can make your own tea. And I do believe that on the blog there is a wonderful a recipe that I share for moon milk with ashwagandha,
Oh,
that
nice.
like, talk about a nightly mom ritual, right?
Yeah.
That really helps to support the adrenal system and so many other systems of the body, because it helps to tone and strengthen, right? So many systems and our overall physical, emotional, and psycho-spiritual well-being. So the blog is just treasure trove of wonderful insight and wisdom and modern alchemy practices.
Yeah.
There's
And
also a wonderful book. It's not on the site right now. It's on Amazon, but it's an ebook called "The Love Frequency: The Modern Alchemist Guide to Radiant Beauty." And it is chock full of modern alchemy practices like the moon milk recipe, like sound healing with the solfeggio frequencies. I know we couldn't even probably don't have time to get into that. Maybe another time we can, but
I'm having
um,
my Zoom give me like a countdown here. It's like, you've got 2 minutes left. I'm like, no, I want to keep talking.
well, that's a wonderful resource too for all of your
Okay.
listeners.
That's fantastic. I mean, I'm obviously going to link everything in the show notes, so it will be accessible to everybody. Go visit Adora on Instagram, on her website, check her out, learn from her, take her up on her very sweet and generous offer of 20% off on her website. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. It was such a gift to learn from you today, and I really
Oh,
appreciate you.
my pleasure, Jill. It's been a joy. And I also forgot to mention that we have a number of in-person programs this year in different parts of the US.
Okay.
May for Mother's Day at the Art of Living Retreat Center. And bring your mom or your sister, your bestie. Kripalu Yoga Center in August and Omega Institute at the end of August, in addition to France.
Oh, France, that's a whole other I mean, I
That's a
wanna get
whole
into that.
other, yeah.
You'll come back. You'll come back and we'll talk all the things.
Yes, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you again so much.
What a wonderful conversation. Thank you, Jill.